Her co-workers laughed at her for being fat until she married the CEO. Have you ever been mocked, humiliated, or laughed at because of your size? Have you ever felt invisible, like no one truly saw you? Right there in Albany, New York, Elizabeth Alex knew that feeling all too well. Every day at work was a battlefield, whispers behind her back, cruel laughter in the break room, and snide remarks disguised as jokes. They thought she was nothing. They thought she would always be at the bottom. But what they didn't know was that the most powerful man in the company had been watching. Not with judgment, not with ridicule, but with something far more dangerous: interest. And when the moment came, the moment where they pushed her too far, he did something that no one expected. He took her hand and changed everything. Before we begin, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in Elizabeth's shoes? Share your experience in the comments. Also, let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story travels. Before we begin, let me say something really personal to me right now. We spend hours making these videos, hoping they reach people around the world. One of my biggest goals is to share valuable lessons about love, humility, and kindness, so we can create a better world together. I would love to know that these stories and lessons are reaching people from different parts of the world. So please take a moment to comment and let me know where you're watching from. Now, let's begin. The air in the marketing department of Brightwell Corporation hums with the low drone of keyboards and the occasional burst of laughter. At the center of it all is Elizabeth Alex, a woman whose presence seems to invite whispers. Her desk, tucked near the back corner by the window, is a fortress of neatly stacked files and a single potted plant, a gift from her younger sister, Lily, who's away at college. Elizabeth's plus-size frame fills her chair, and though she carries herself with quiet dignity, her co-workers rarely let her forget how they see her. An outsider, a punchline. The day begins like any other. Elizabeth arrives early, her sensible black flats clicking softly against the polished floor as she weaves through the maze of cubicles. She's dressed in a navy blazer and skirt, her chestnut hair pulled into a tight bun, a shield against judgment. She settles at her desk, sifting through emails, when the first jab lands. "Morning, Lizzie," Megan drawls, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Megan, with her sharp cheekbones and designer heels, is the department's unofficial queen bee. She leans against Tom's desk, twirling a strand of blonde hair. "Didn't see you at the gym last night. Oh, wait, guess that's not your scene, huh?" Her lips curl into a smirk as Tom, a lanky guy with a perpetual grin, snickers. Elizabeth's fingers pause over her keyboard. She forces a tight smile. "Good morning, Megan. I was busy with the quarterly reports." Her voice is steady, but inside, her stomach twists. She's learned to let the comments roll off her, most days anyway. Tom pipes up, leaning back in his chair. "Yeah, those reports must burn a lot of calories, right? Sitting there, typing away." He chuckles, glancing at Megan for approval. She rewards him with a laugh, loud enough to turn heads. Across the room, Sandra, a soft-spoken woman with warm brown eyes, looks up from her own work. She adjusts her glasses, her brow furrowing. Sandra's the quiet type, always scribbling in a notebook during lunch breaks, but she's never joined the mockery. She catches Elizabeth's eye for a fleeting moment, offering a small, sympathetic nod before ducking her head back down. It's a gesture Elizabeth clings to, a lifeline in a sea of disdain. The morning drags on, punctuated by more barbs. Megan saunters by Elizabeth's desk with a coffee cup in hand, pausing to peer at the plant. "Cute little thing," she says, her tone mocking. "What's it called? A pity present?" Tom snorts from his desk, and a few others nearby stifle giggles. Elizabeth grips her pen tighter, the ink smudging under her thumb. She doesn't respond. By noon, the tension coils tighter. Elizabeth escapes to the break room, hoping for a moment of peace. She's reheating leftover pasta when Megan and Tom stroll in, their voices carrying. "I mean, can you imagine her on a date?" Megan says, loud enough to ensure Elizabeth hears. "Who'd sign up for that? She'd probably crush the poor guy." Tom doubles over, wheezing with laughter. "Or scare him off before the appetizers." Elizabeth freezes, the microwave humming behind her. Her cheeks burn, but she keeps her back to them, stirring her food with shaking hands. She wants to snap back, to tell them they're shallow and cruel, but the words lodge in her throat. Instead, she grabs her container and slips out, their laughter chasing her down the hall. She finds refuge in the restroom, locking herself in a stall. The mirror looms ahead when she emerges, reflecting a woman she barely recognizes. Her hazel eyes glisten with unshed tears as she studies her round face, her full arms, the way her blazer strains slightly at the shoulders. "Why do I stay here?" she whispers to her reflection. Her chest tightens with the weight of it all, the taunts, the isolation, the endless need to prove herself. She thinks of Lily, her bright-eyed sister, poring over textbooks in a dorm room Elizabeth pays for. Quitting isn't an option. Not yet. Back at her desk, the day grinds on. Sandra approaches hesitantly, clutching a folder. "Hey, Elizabeth," she says softly. I noticed you caught that last campaign pitch before it went out. Saved us from a typo." That was sharp. Her smile is genuine, a rare flicker of kindness. Elizabeth blinks, caught off guard. "Thanks, Sandra. Just doing my job." Sandra lingers, as if she wants to say more, but then nods and retreats. It's a small moment, but it plants a seed of doubt in Elizabeth's mind. Could there be allies here she's overlooked? The afternoon brings a shift. Megan gathers a cluster of co-workers near the printer, her voice rising with glee. "Okay, real talk. Who'd ever take Lizzie home to meet the parents? I mean, come on." She gestures toward Elizabeth's desk, oblivious, or uncaring, that Elizabeth can hear every word. Tom chimes in, "Maybe someone blind." Or desperate. The group erupts in laughter, and Elizabeth's hands clenched into fists beneath her desk. She imagines storming over, flipping the printer onto the floor, watching their smug faces twist in shock. But she doesn't. She buries herself in spreadsheets, letting the numbers blur the sting. As the clock nears 5, the office buzzes with a different energy. An email pings across everyone's screens, marked urgent. Elizabeth opens it, her breath catching. The subject line reads, "CEO visit tomorrow." The message is brief but electrifying. James Smith, Brightwell's enigmatic CEO, will tour the marketing department in the morning. No one's seen him in person. He's a phantom, a name on letterhead, a figure shrouded in rumors. Some say he's ruthless, others claim he's brilliant, but all agree he's untouchable. Megan's voice cuts through the murmurs. "Oh, this is big. James Smith? The guy's a legend. Bet he's gorgeous, too." She smooths her hair, already preening. Tom grins. "Think he'll notice your new skirt, Meg?" She swats him playfully, but her eyes gleam with ambition. Elizabeth watches silently, a flicker of curiosity stirring. Who is this man? And why now? Sandra sidles up to Elizabeth's desk, her voice low. "Heard he fired half the finance team last year. Just walked in, pointed, and said, 'You're done.' No warning." Her words hang heavy, laced with unease. Elizabeth frowns. "Why's he coming here, then? We're not in trouble, are we?" Sandra shrugs, her expression unreadable. "Maybe. Or maybe he's looking for something else." The office empties out, but Elizabeth lingers, staring at the email. Her mind races. Could this be a chance to shine, to escape the shadow of her co-worker's cruelty? Or will it just be another stage for humiliation? She thinks of Megan's taunts, Tom's laughter, Sandra's quiet support. And then there's James Smith, A wild card, a mystery. As she shuts down her computer, a question gnaws at her. What if he sees her, really sees her? The thought is equal parts thrilling and terrifying. She grabs her bag and heads for the elevator, the office falling silent behind her. Tomorrow looms like a storm on the horizon, promising upheaval she can't yet predict. One thing's certain, James Smith's arrival will change everything. The morning sun filters through the towering windows of Brightwell Corporation, bathing the marketing department in a golden glow. The air crackles with nervous energy as employees adjust ties, smooth skirts, and exchange hushed speculation. Today is the day James Smith, the elusive CEO, steps out of the shadows and into their world. Elizabeth Alex sits at her desk, her fingers drumming lightly against a stack of folders. She's dressed in a crisp gray blouse and skirt, her hair pinned back with extra care. After yesterday's taunts, she's determined to blend into the background, but a restless hope flickers in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, today could be different. The clock ticks past 9 when the elevator dings. A hush sweeps the room, head swiveling as James Smith emerges. He's younger than anyone expected, barely 30, with dark hair swept back and piercing blue eyes that seem to see everything at once. His tailored suit hugs a lean, powerful frame, and his presence commands the space without effort. He's rich, undeniably handsome, and carries an aura of quiet authority that makes the room feel smaller. Behind him trails a stern assistant, a woman in a sleek blazer clutching a tablet, her expression all business. Megan, perched at her desk like a predator, straightens immediately. "There he is," she murmurs to Tom, her voice low and eager. "Told you he'd be gorgeous." Tom smirks, adjusting his tie. "Bet he's here to promote someone. Probably you, Meg." She flashes a confident grin, already plotting her moment to shine. James strides into the department, his assistant announcing, "Mr. Smith is here for the project review. He'll meet with the team leads first, then address the room." The leads, polished, ambitious types, scurry to gather their notes, leaving the rest of the staff to watch from the sidelines. Elizabeth keeps her head down, pretending to review a spreadsheet, but her eyes dart toward James. There's something about him, his calm, the way he scans the room, that unsettles her. She can't tell if it's nerves or something else. The review begins with the team leads presenting their latest campaign pitches. Megan, as a junior lead, steps forward, her heels clicking with purpose. "Mr. Smith," she says, her voice smooth as silk, "our Q2 strategy tripled engagement. I spearheaded the social media push myself." She tosses her hair, basking in the attention. James nods, his expression neutral. "Impressive numbers," he says, his tone clipped but polite. "What about retention? Did the spike hold?" Megan falters, her smile tightening. We're still analyzing that, sir." He tilts his head, scribbling something on a notepad, and moves on. Megan retreats, her confidence shaken. As the review drags on, Elizabeth fades into the background, or so she thinks. She's jotting notes when a shadow falls over her desk. She looks up, and there he is, James Smith, standing mere feet away, his gaze locked on her. The room seems to hold its breath. "What's your name?" he asks, his voice low but clear, cutting through the hum of the office. Elizabeth's heart stumbles. She sets her pen down, her hands trembling slightly. "Elizabeth Alex, sir," she says, her tone soft but steady, despite the heat rising in her cheeks. Around her, heads turn. Megan, leaning against a filing cabinet, stiffens, her eyes narrowing. Tom, slouched in his chair, lets out a muffled snicker. James steps closer, ignoring the ripple of surprise. "Nice to meet you, Elizabeth," he says, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "You did a great job on the last campaign report. The breakdown of the regional data, it was thorough. Caught details others missed." His words hang in the air, simple yet weighty, and Elizabeth blinks, caught off guard. "Thank you, sir," she manages, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just wanted to make sure it was accurate." Megan's whisper slices through the silence. "Why is he talking to her?" she hisses to Tom, her tone sharp with disbelief. Tom smirks, leaning toward her. Maybe he feels sorry for her, charity case vibes. Their laughter is quiet but venomous, and Elizabeth catches every word. Her stomach twists, but James doesn't flinch. If he hears them, he doesn't show it. Instead, he lingers. "Accuracy matters," he says, his eyes holding hers. "Too many people here chase flash over substance. That report saved us a costly mistake." He pauses, then adds, "Who trained you on the analytics?" The question throws her. "No one, sir," she admits. "I taught myself. Took some online courses after hours." His brow lifts slightly, a spark of interest flashing in his gaze. "Self-taught. That's rare." The exchange lasts only a minute, but it shifts the room's gravity. As James moves on to the next desk, the whispers erupt. Megan crosses her arms, her lips pursed. "What was that about?" she mutters, glaring at Elizabeth's back. Tom shrugs, still grinning. "Beats me. Maybe he's testing her, see if she cracks." Across the room, Sandra watches from her desk, her pen hovering over her notebook. She scribbles something, her expression unreadable, then glances at Elizabeth with a flicker of curiosity. The review continues, but James's attention keeps drifting back to Elizabeth. When a lead stumbles over a question about budget allocation, James turns to her unprompted. "Elizabeth, you tracked the figures last quarter? What's your take?" The room freezes. Megan's jaw tightens, and Tom's grin fades. Elizabeth hesitates, then straightens. "The overspend came from the ad rollout in the Midwest," she says, her voice gaining strength. "We pushed too hard on billboards when digital was outperforming. I'd suggest reallocating next time." James nods, scribbling again. "Good, I agree." Megan's face flushes red. "She's just an assistant," she snaps under her breath, loud enough for Tom to hear. "Since when does she get to play expert?" Tom leans back, his tone dry. "Since the CEO decided she's his new pet, apparently." The jealousy in Megan's eyes sharpens, a storm brewing beneath her polished exterior. The morning stretches on, and James's kindness toward Elizabeth becomes impossible to ignore. He asks her opinion twice more, once about a client's feedback loop, then about a stalled project timeline, each time praising her insight. The rest of the department squirms, their unease growing. Megan's barbs grow bolder. "Guess we've got a new star," she says loudly during a break, her voice carrying across the room. Who knew all it took was a spreadsheet? A few co-workers laugh nervously, but James, pouring coffee nearby, glances over with a cool, assessing look that silences them. Elizabeth feels the weight of it all, the praise, the resentment, the spotlight she never asked for. During a lull, she slips to the break room, needing air. Sandra follows, her footsteps soft. "You okay?" she asks, leaning against the counter. Elizabeth sighs, clutching a water bottle. "I don't know what's happening, Sandra. Why me? He could have picked anyone." Sandra tilts her head, thoughtful. "Maybe he sees something they don't." "You're good at this, Elizabeth. Better than most of them." Her words are kind, but there's an edge to her tone, a hint of something unspoken. Before Elizabeth can press, Sandra slips away. Back in the office, the tension peaks. James gathers the team for a final briefing. "You've got talent here," he says, his voice firm. "But I'm not impressed by posturing. I want results." His gaze sweeps the room, lingering on Elizabeth for a beat longer than necessary. Megan bristles, her hands clenched at her sides. Tom mutters, "He's totally buying her act." but his bravado falters under James's stare. As the meeting wraps, James approaches Elizabeth's desk one last time. The room watches, breathless. "Elizabeth," he says, his tone casual yet deliberate, "I'm starting a special project, confidential, high stakes. I need someone I can trust to work on it with me, directly. Are you in?" His eyes search hers, and the weight of his words crashes over her. A chance, a real chance, dangled like a lifeline. Elizabeth's pulse races. Yes, sir, I'd be honored." Her voice wavers, but her resolve holds. James smiles, a rare, genuine curve of his lips. "Good. We'll start tomorrow. My office, 8 sharp." He turns to leave, but not before adding, "And call me James." With that, he's gone, the elevator doors closing behind him. The silence explodes into chaos. Megan storms to Tom's desk, her voice a furious hiss. Her. What does he see in that nobody? Tom shrugs, uneasy now. Beats me, but he's serious. She's in deep now. Sandra watches from afar, her pen tapping against her notebook, her eyes narrowed. Elizabeth sits frozen, the offer echoing in her mind. A special project, with the CEO. It's a dream, and a danger. What does he really want, and can she handle the fallout? The day ends with questions swirling. Megan's jealousy simmers, a threat unspoken. Sandra's quiet support hides layers yet to surface. And James Smith, young, rich, handsome, and impossibly mysterious, has just pulled Elizabeth into his orbit. Tomorrow looms, a precipice she can't see beyond. The clock ticks past 7 on Elizabeth Alex's first evening in James Smith's office, a sleek corner suite on the top floor of Brightwell Corporation. Floor-to-ceiling windows frame the city skyline, lights twinkling against the dusk, while a mahogany desk dominates the space, cluttered with files and a laptop glowing softly. Elizabeth sits across from James, a notepad balanced on her lap, her sensible flats tucked beneath her chair. She's still in her gray blouse from the morning, now slightly rumpled, but her hazel eyes are sharp, focused. This is her chance, her shot to prove she's more than the office punchline. James leans back in his chair, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He's less the untouchable CEO now, more a man at ease, though his piercing blue eyes still carry that quiet intensity. "Let's start with the client list," he says, sliding a folder toward her. "This project's a beast. Confidential, high stakes. We're pitching to a major retailer, and I need it airtight." His voice is steady, but there's a warmth in it, a trust that catches Elizabeth off guard. She nods, flipping open the folder. "I've already cross-checked their last campaign. They're heavy on luxury branding, but their mid-tier stores are underperforming. We could lean into that gap." Her words come fast, fueled by a mix of nerves and determination. James tilts his head, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "You've done your homework. Good. Most people stop at the surface." His praise lands softly, but it stirs something in her, a flicker of pride she hasn't felt in years. The night stretches on, the office growing quiet as the rest of the building empties. They bounce ideas back and forth, papers piling up, coffee cups multiplying. James sketches a timeline on a whiteboard, his handwriting sharp and precise, while Elizabeth types notes, her fingers flying across the keys. The rhythm feels natural, effortless, like they've worked together for months, not hours. Around 10, James stretches, rubbing the back of his neck. "You hungry?" he asks, glancing at her. "We're in for a long haul." Elizabeth hesitates, then nods. "Sure, I could eat." He orders takeout, Italian from a place she's never heard of, and soon they're sharing pasta and garlic bread at his desk. The city lights their only audience. The conversation shifts, tentative at first. "How'd you end up here?" James asks, twirling spaghetti on his fork. Brightwell's not exactly a small pond. She pauses, her fork hovering. I needed the job, she says simply. My sister Lily, she's in college. I help with tuition. Marketing wasn't my dream, but it pays. Her voice is steady, but there's a raw edge to it, a glimpse of the weight she carries. James nods, his gaze softening. That's a lot to shoulder. She's lucky to have you. His tone is genuine, not pitying, and it disarms her. The late-night meetings become routine over the next 2 weeks. They tackle budgets, mock-ups, client calls, grueling work that blurs the hours. But it's the moments between that shift the ground beneath them. One night, as rain drums against the windows, James pours them both coffee from a pot in the corner. You ever think about doing more? He asks, handing her a mug. You've got a knack for this, more than most of the leads downstairs. Elizabeth cradles the mug, the warmth seeping into her hands. I don't know, she admits. I've never had the chance to think that big. People here, they don't see me that way. Her voice dips, a shadow crossing her face. James leans against the desk, studying her. What do they see, then? His question is gentle, but it cuts deep. She hesitates, the weight of years pressing down. Then, quietly, someone to laugh at. The words spill out before she can stop them. They've mocked me since I started. My size, my clothes, everything. It's like I'm a joke to them. Her eyes drop to the floor, her throat tight. Megan, Tom, they're the worst, always have been. She braces for pity, but James's face hardens, a flash of anger in his eyes. They're small-minded, he says, his voice low. You're worth 10 of them. They're just too blind to see it. His words linger, heavy with conviction, and Elizabeth feels a crack in the wall she's built around herself. She looks up, meeting his gaze, and for the first time in years, she feels seen, not as a target, but as a person. Thanks, she murmurs, her voice thick. That means a lot. James nods, a quiet understanding passing between them. Their bond deepens with each meeting. One night, as they review a pitch deck, James opens up. I wasn't born into this, you know, he says, staring at the screen. Grew up with nothing, single mom, tiny apartment. Worked my way up from the mailroom here. Elizabeth blinks, surprised. Really? Everyone acts like you're some golden heir. He laughs, a dry, humorless sound. Yeah, well, I let them. Keeps them guessing. But I know what it's like to be invisible, to fight for every scrap. The confession bridges a gap she didn't know existed. I get that, she says softly. Fighting, I mean. It's exhausting. He turns to her, his expression unguarded. It is. But you're still here. That's strength. His admiration is plain, and it stirs something warm in her chest, a feeling she can't name. Weeks pass, the project nearing its deadline. Late one night, as they finalize the presentation, James watches her with a quiet intensity. She's highlighting data points, her brow furrowed in concentration, and he realizes he's been drawn to her for longer than she knows. Months ago, he'd skimmed her report, the one that caught the regional error, and been struck by her precision, her quiet brilliance. He'd watched her from afar, noting how she carried herself despite the whispers, how she never faltered. Now, working beside her, he sees the woman behind the work, resilient, sharp, kind, and he's falling, hard. Elizabeth remains oblivious, lost in the task. We're almost there, she says, glancing at him with a tired smile. This could really work. James nods, his voice soft. Yeah, it could. But he's not just talking about the project. His feelings simmer beneath the surface, a secret he's not ready to voice. Not yet. The night before the pitch, they're alone in his office, the clock nearing midnight. Rain streaks the windows, the city a blur beyond. Elizabeth stretches, rubbing her eyes. I should head home, she says, gathering her things. James hesitates, then steps closer. Elizabeth, he says, his tone serious, You've done more for this than I could have asked. I mean it. She looks up, caught by the weight in his voice. It's my job, she says, but he shakes his head. It's more than that. You're more than that. His eyes hold hers, and for a moment, the air thickens with unspoken possibility. She freezes, her breath catching. Is he saying what she thinks? Before she can ask, his phone buzzes. A client call, urgent. He curses under his breath, stepping back. Tomorrow, he says, a promise in his tone. We'll talk after the pitch. She nods, dazed, and heads for the elevator. The doors close, leaving her with a storm of questions. What did he mean? And why does her heart race at the thought? Downstairs, the lobby is empty, but a figure lingers near the exit. Megan, her arms crossed, her eyes glinting with something sharp. Late night with the boss, she calls, her voice dripping with venom. Elizabeth stiffens but keeps walking. Good night, Megan, she says, her tone firm. Megan's laughter follows her into the night, a warning note in the air. Tomorrow's pitch looms, a make-or-break moment for the project, and maybe for Elizabeth and James. His admiration, her growing trust, the secret he carries, they're all threads tightening toward a breaking point. What happens next could upend everything. The grand atrium of Brightwell Corporation glows under the soft light of chandeliers, transformed for the annual corporate gala. Long tables draped in white linen hold flutes of champagne and platters of hors d'oeuvres, while a string quartet hums in the corner. Employees mingle in their finest, suits pressed, dresses shimmering, their laughter echoing off the marble walls. Elizabeth Alex stands near the edge of the crowd, her hands smoothing the fabric of a deep green dress she spent weeks choosing. It's elegant, hugging her curves with quiet confidence, a rare splurge for tonight. She's here because James insisted. You've earned it, he'd said after their project aced the pitch. But the buzz of the room sets her nerves on edge. Across the atrium, Megan holds court, her silver gown catching the light as she tosses her hair and charms a cluster of executives. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, lock onto Elizabeth from time to time, a predator sizing up prey. Tom hovers nearby, sipping a drink, his grin lazy but eager. Sandra, in a modest black dress, lingers by the dessert table, watching the scene with her usual quiet intensity. The air hums with anticipation. Tonight isn't just a party, it's a stage, and everyone's playing a part. James arrives late, slipping through the double doors with his usual effortless grace. His charcoal suit fits him like a second skin, and heads turn as he moves through the crowd, exchanging nods and brief words. Elizabeth catches his eye from across the room, and he offers a small, reassuring smile, a tether sigh. She returns it, her heart skipping. Their late-night talks have built a trust she didn't expect, a lifeline amid the office's hostility. But tonight, that trust feels fragile, exposed under the gala's bright lights. The evening unfolds smoothly at first. Elizabeth sticks to the sidelines, sipping sparkling water, chatting with Sandra about the project's success. You deserve this, Sandra says, her voice soft but firm. They're just jealous. Elizabeth shrugs, forcing a smile. Maybe. Doesn't make it easier. Sandra's gaze lingers, a flicker of something, concern, curiosity, crossing her face before she nods and drifts back into the crowd. Megan, meanwhile, watches Elizabeth like a hawk. The pitch's triumph, credited largely to Elizabeth and James, has left her seething. She'd expected the spotlight, the praise, and now every glance James throws Elizabeth's way stokes her resentment. She leans toward Tom, her voice low. She thinks she's untouchable now, doesn't she? Let's give her a night she won't forget. Tom smirks, swirling his drink. What's the play? Megan's lips curve, her eyes glinting. Follow my lead. The moment builds slowly, a trap tightening. Megan weaves through the crowd, a glass of red wine in hand, her movements deliberate. Elizabeth, sensing the shift in the air, straightens, her instincts prickling. She's near the buffet, exchanging small talk with the junior exec, when Megan closes in. "Oh, Elizabeth," she calls, her voice loud and syrupy, drawing eyes. "You look festive tonight. That dress. Bold choice." The words drip with mockery, and a few nearby chuckles ripple out. Elizabeth's cheeks warm, but she keeps her tone even. "Thanks, Megan. Enjoying the party?" Megan steps closer, too close, her smile tight. "Oh, absolutely. Just grabbing a drink." Then, as if by accident, her hand tilts. The wine splashes across Elizabeth's dress, a crimson stain blooming over the green fabric. Gasps erupt, heads whipping around. Megan gasps too, theatrical and hollow. "Oh no, clumsy me. Guess that's what happens when you're not used to fancy events, huh?" The room freezes, all eyes on Elizabeth. Laughter breaks out, sharp and cruel, led by Tom's guffaw. "Looks like she's the entertainment tonight," he calls, and the sound spreads, a wave crashing over her. Megan steps back, her expression smug, feigning apology. "Sorry, Lizzie. Maybe stick to desk work next time." Elizabeth's breath catches, her chest tightening. The stain seeps into her dress, cold and sticky, but it's the humiliation that burns, hundreds of eyes judging, mocking. Her hands tremble as she sets her glass down, the junior exec mumbling an awkward, "I'll get napkins," before retreating. She feels Megan's triumph, Tom's glee, the weight of every whispered jab she's endured. Tears sting her eyes and she can't hold them back. "Excuse me," she chokes out, pushing through the crowd, their laughter chasing her as she flees toward the balcony doors. James, near the bar with a senior VP, sees it all. His jaw tightens, his drink forgotten as Megan's voice rings out. He watches Elizabeth's face crumple, her hurried escape, and something snaps inside him. Anger, yes, but also a fierce protectiveness he's kept buried. He excuses himself mid-sentence, weaving through the throng, his strides long and determined. Outside, the balcony overlooks the city, cool air cutting through the night. Elizabeth stands at the railing, her shoulders shaking, tears streaming down her face. The gala's noise fades behind the glass doors, leaving only her ragged breaths. She grips the metal, her knuckles white, whispering to herself, "Why did I think this would be different?" The stain on her dress glares back at her, a mark of everything she's fought to rise above. Footsteps sound behind her. She stiffens, expecting more cruelty, but it's James. His presence fills the space, steady and quiet. "Elizabeth," he says, his voice low, anchoring. She doesn't turn, wiping her face with a trembling hand. "Please, just go back inside. I'm fine." He steps closer, undeterred. "You're not fine, and I'm not leaving." His tone is firm, but there's a gentleness beneath it, a thread of the trust they've built. She turns then, her eyes red-rimmed, the ruined dress stark against the night. "Why do you care?" she snaps, her voice breaking. "I'm tired of being laughed at, James, tired of being the fool." He meets her gaze, unflinching. "Don't let their words define you," he says, each word deliberate. "They're petty, shallow. You're better than them, smarter, stronger. They hate that." His conviction cuts through her haze, but the pain lingers. "It doesn't stop hurting," she whispers. "I thought, maybe with the project, with you, it'd change. But it's the same. Always the same." James's expression shifts, a storm brewing in his eyes. Anger at Megan, admiration for Elizabeth, something deeper he's held back too long. He steps closer, close enough for her to feel his warmth against the chill. "Then let me give them something real to talk about," he says, his voice low, resolute. Before she can process his words, he reaches for her hand, his fingers firm around hers. Her breath hitches, confusion warring with the steadiness of his touch. "What are you?" she starts, but he's already moving, pulling her gently but decisively back toward the doors. "Trust me," he says, a quiet command. She stumbles after him, her heart pounding, the damp fabric clinging to her skin. The gala looms ahead, a lion's den, and she wants to pull away, to hide, but his grip holds her steady, a lifeline she can't refuse. They step inside, and the room falls silent. Hundreds of eyes snap to them. James Smith, the CEO, hand in hand with Elizabeth Alex, her dress stained, her face tear-streaked. Megan freezes mid-laugh, her glass dangling. Tom's smirk vanishes, his drink halfway to his lips. Sandra's pen stops, her eyes wide, whispers ripple, but James doesn't falter. He leads Elizabeth to the center of the atrium, his posture unyielding, her hand still in his. He turns to her, his voice carrying across the stunned crowd. "Elizabeth Alex is the reason we landed the biggest deal this company's seen in years. She's brilliant, dedicated, and worth more than any of you know." His gaze sweeps the room, daring dissent, then lands back on her. "I'm proud to stand with her." The words hang heavy and electric, a declaration no one saw coming. Elizabeth's breath catches, her tears drying as shock gives way to something new, strength borrowed from his, blooming in her chest. Megan's face twists, her triumph souring. Tom shifts uncomfortably, the crowd murmuring, thrown off balance. Sandra watches, a faint smile tugging at her lips, her notebook forgotten. James squeezes Elizabeth's hand, his eyes locked on hers, a silent promise in the chaos. The room holds its breath, the power shifting, the rules breaking. What happens next? Her response, their fallout, teeters on the edge, a reckoning no one can predict. The fallout from the gala ripples through Brightwell Corporation like a shockwave. The Monday after James's bold stand, the marketing department buzzes with whispers as employees file into the auditorium for an unscheduled all-staff meeting. Elizabeth Alex sits near the back, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her navy blazer a shield against the stairs. Her green dress, ruined by Megan's wine, is a memory she can't shake, but James's words, "I'm proud to stand with her," echo louder. She's still reeling, caught between gratitude and disbelief, her heart a tangle of hope and fear. James takes the stage, his presence commanding as ever. His dark suit is crisp, his blue eyes scanning the room with quiet authority. The crowd hushes, anticipation thick in the air. "Last week," he begins, his voice steady and clear, "this company closed a deal that'll redefine our future. One person made that possible." Elizabeth Alex's heads turn, eyes locking onto her. She shifts, her cheeks warming, but James presses on. She's faced more than her share of disrespect here, petty, baseless attacks, and I won't tolerate it. Her work speaks for itself. She's an asset, and anyone who can't see that doesn't belong at Brightwell. The room erupts in murmurs. Megan, seated near the front with Tom, crosses her arms, her silver earrings glinting as her lips twist into a scowl. Tom leans toward her, muttering, "He's doubling down." Unreal. Sandra, a few rows back, adjusts her glasses, her expression unreadable, but her pen poised over her notebook. Elizabeth feels the weight of James's defense, a lifeline pulling her from years of shame. She straightens, her chin lifting, a spark of strength igniting within her. The meeting ends, but the impact lingers. Over the next few days, Elizabeth walks the halls differently, shoulders back, eyes forward. Co-workers who once snickered now nod or avoid her gaze. Sandra stops by her desk one morning, a rare smile breaking through. "You're tougher than they thought," she says, her voice low. "Keep it up." Elizabeth nods, her confidence growing, fragile but real. "Thanks, Sandra. I'm trying." Behind closed doors, something else blooms. James invites Elizabeth to his office after hours, ostensibly to debrief on the deal's rollout. But the meeting stretched late, the work blending into quiet moments, coffee shared, stories swapped. One night, as they pore over projections, he looks at her, his gaze soft. "You're incredible. You know that," he says, almost to himself. She blinks, caught off guard. "I'm just me," she replies, but his smile deepens. "Exactly." Their connection shifts, tentative but undeniable. Soon they're stealing dinners at tucked-away restaurants, trading texts that linger past midnight. It's a secret, a fragile thread they guard from the office's prying eyes. Elizabeth feels alive in a way she never has, seen, valued, wanted. James, for all his power, softens with her, his guarded edges peeling back. "I've never met anyone like you," he admits one night over takeout in his apartment, his voice raw. "You make me want to be better." But secrets don't stay buried at Brightwell. A month into their hidden romance, the rumors ignite. It starts with a whisper. Someone saw them leaving the building together, too close, too late. By week's end, the office is a furnace of gossip. "She's sleeping her way up," a junior staffer mutters in the break room. "Explains the CEO's pet project," another chimes in. Elizabeth overhears, her stomach twisting, but she holds her head high. James, sensing the tide, decides to end the speculation. At the next staff briefing, he steps to the podium, his jaw set. "There's talk circulating," he says, his tone cutting through the chatter. "Let's clear it up. Elizabeth, Alex, and I are together. It's personal, it's real, and it doesn't change her worth. Or mine." The room gasps, then buzzes. Elizabeth, in the third row, feels her face burn, but pride edges out the embarrassment. James meets her eyes, unwavering, and she nods back, a silent pact sealed. The announcement unleashes chaos. Most co-workers gawk or shrug, but Megan's fury erupts like a storm. She corners Tom in the copy room, her voice a hiss. "She's a nobody who tricked him. I'm not letting her win." Tom raises an eyebrow, wary. "What's your move, Meg? He's the boss." Her eyes narrow. "Watch me." Megan's sabotage unfurls with precision. She digs into Elizabeth's old reports, twisting minor typos into tales of incompetence. She plants rumors with HR, claims Elizabeth fudged data, leaked confidential plans. By week's end, a memo circulates, unsigned but venomous. "Elizabeth, Alex, fraud or favoritism?" It lands on every desk, a grenade in the office's fragile peace. Elizabeth finds it on her chair, her hands shaking as she reads. The confidence she's built crumbles, doubt seeping in. "Maybe they're right," she whispers to herself, alone at her desk. "Maybe I don't belong here." James catches wind of it fast. He storms into the department, the memo crumpled in his fist, his face a mask of controlled rage. "Who wrote this?" he demands, his voice echoing. Silence answers him. Megan, leaning against a cubicle, feigns innocence, but her smirk betrays her. James zeroes in, his gaze icy. "Megan, my office, now." The room watches, breathless as she follows, her heels clicking defiantly. Inside, he doesn't mince words. "You're behind this," he says, tossing the memo onto his desk. "It's petty, it's false, and it's over. You're done here." Megan blanches, her bravado cracking. "You can't fire me. I've given years to this place." James leans forward, unflinching. "You've given years of poison. Pack your things." She storms out, slamming the door, her exit a thunderclap that reverberates through the building. Word spreads by lunch. Megan's gone, escorted out by security. Tom slinks to the break room, muttering, "She pushed too far." Sandra watches from her desk, her pen tapping, a faint nod of approval on her face. Elizabeth, though, feels no triumph. The memo's lies cling to her, feeding the insecurities she's battled forever. That night at James's apartment, she paces, her voice trembling. I can't do this, James. I'm not good enough. For you. For this. They'll never stop. He steps closer, his hands gentle on her shoulders. You're more than enough, he says, his tone fierce. They're wrong. About you, about us. I love you, Elizabeth. The words hang, raw and real, and she freezes, tears brimming. I love you too, she admits, her voice breaking. But I'm scared. I'll drag you down. He shakes his head, resolute. Then let me prove you wrong. Before she can protest, he drops to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Marry me, he says, his eyes locked on hers, a diamond ring glinting in the light. Let's show them what we're made of, together. Her breath catches, the world tilting. Fear wars with hope, doubt with love. The room holds its breath, her answer a precipice that could redefine everything. The morning of Elizabeth Alex's wedding dawns crisp and golden, the sky stretching wide over a sprawling estate just outside the city. The venue is a vision of opulence, rolling lawns framed by rose gardens, a grand marquee draped in white silk, and crystal chandeliers glinting under the sun. Guests arrive in waves, their chatter a hum beneath the soft strains of a violin quartet. Elizabeth stands in a bridal suite upstairs, her reflection glowing in a floor-length mirror. Her gown, ivory and flowing, hugs her curves with elegance, a cascade of lace trailing behind her. Her chestnut hair falls in loose waves, a diamond tiara, a gift from James, catching the light. She's nervous, her hands smoothing the fabric, but there's a quiet strength in her eyes, a woman transformed. Downstairs, James Smith waits by the altar, his tailored tuxedo sharp against the floral backdrop. His dark hair is swept back, his blue eyes bright with anticipation. He's calm, but his fingers tap a subtle rhythm against his thigh, a rare tell of the emotion surging within. This day isn't just a wedding, it's a statement, a defiance of every doubt cast their way. The guest list reads like a who's who of Brightwell Corporation, executives, staff, even those who once sneered at Elizabeth. They're here now, dressed in their finest, their smiles tight or forced. Megan isn't among them. Her firing still stings in the office's memory, but Tom is, slouched in a middle row, his tie crooked, his expression a mix of discomfort and resignation. Sandra sits closer to the front, her black dress understated, a small smile playing on her lips as she adjusts her glasses. She's been Elizabeth's quiet ally through it all, and today her presence feels like a nod of victory. The ceremony begins as Elizabeth steps into view, her arm linked with her younger sister Lily, who's radiant in a pale blue dress. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Elizabeth is breathtaking, a vision that silences the whispers of her past. James's breath catches as she approaches, his smile breaking wide. You're stunning, he murmurs when she reaches him, his voice thick. She blushes, her hand trembling in his. So are you, she whispers back, and the officiant's words fade into a soft hum as they lock eyes, the world shrinking to just them. The vows are a crescendo of their journey. James speaks first, his tone steady but raw. Elizabeth, you've shown me what real strength looks like. Quiet, fierce, unbreakable. I promise to stand by you, to lift you up, always. Tears brim in her eyes as she replies, her voice quivering but clear. James, you saw me when no one else did. You gave me courage I didn't know I had. I promise to love you, to trust you, forever. Rings slide onto fingers, a kiss seals their bond, and the crowd erupts in applause, some genuine, some grudging, all inescapable. The reception unfolds in the marquee, a feast of champagne, roasted lamb, and towering cakes. Elizabeth and James move through the throng, hand in hand, their laughter a melody above the clink of glasses. Tom lingers by the bar, nursing a whiskey, his gaze flickering to them. Guess she won, he mutters to a colleague who shrugs. She earned it. Across the room, Sandra raises a glass to Elizabeth from afar, a silent toast that warms her heart. The employees who once mocked her, whispering about her size, her worth, now watch in strained silence, their faces a gallery of envy and regret. As the night deepens, Elizabeth steps onto the dance floor with James, their first dance a slow, swaying promise under twinkling lights. He pulls her close, his breath warm against her ear. "They're all watching," he says, a hint of mischief in his tone. She glances at the crowd, then back at him, a smile breaking free. "Let them. This is ours." The music swells and they spin, a portrait of joy that rewrites every cruel word ever thrown her way. Weeks turn to months, their marriage a quiet haven amid Brightwell's chaos. Elizabeth settles into her new role, not just as James's wife, but as a rising force in the company, her confidence now a steady flame. Then, one crisp autumn morning, a twist unfolds. She's in their kitchen, sipping tea, when a wave of nausea hits. James finds her later, clutching a pregnancy test, her eyes wide. "I'm pregnant," she says, half laughing, half crying. He pulls her into his arms, his voice a reverent whisper. "A baby, our baby." The news is a secret they cradle close, a symbol of the life they've built from the ashes of her past. 9 months later, the hospital room is soft with morning light. Elizabeth cradles their newborn daughter, a tiny girl with James's blue eyes and her chestnut curls. Her name is Grace, a quiet nod to the resilience that brought them here. James sits beside her, his hand resting on hers, his tuxedo days replaced by a rumpled sweater. The baby coos, and Elizabeth's tears fall, joy, relief, triumph mingling in each drop. She looks at James, her voice trembling. "I never thought I'd have this. A family. A life like this." He leans in, his forehead touching hers, and whispers, "They laughed at you once. Now they wish they were you." His words land like a final chord, a truth carved from their battles. She nods, her gaze drifting to Grace, the weight of her old pain lifting, replaced by a love so fierce it rewrites her story. The room holds them, husband, wife, child, a new chapter etched in defiance of every doubt. The camera lingers on this scene, then fades to black. Your voice cuts in, warm and reflective. Elizabeth's journey took her from the shadows to a life she never dared dream of. What's the biggest lesson you learned from her story? Drop it in the comments. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And please like and subscribe for more stories like this.